Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in again to the Exploring the Midwest broadcast. For those of you listening on the podcast at a later date, the Exploring the Midwest broadcast is live on YouTube at 12:10 p.m. Central every Wednesday. You can join us live, ask questions, and have a chat. So our guest today is Dave Lorenz. Now, Dave is the Vice President of Travel Michigan, better known as Pure Michigan if you follow them on their social accounts. And moderating the chat today is Amy Piper. Amy is the publisher of the travel blog Follow the Piper and author of the Michigan chapter of the new book, Midwest Road Trip Adventures. So thanks to both of them for joining us today. Dave, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to chat with us.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Jody. I'm actually in Flint today, and I'm checking out many of our cultural institutions and other attractions here that are all coming back to life after COVID. So it's good to see.
We love to hear that. So Pure Michigan is one of the most recognized travel brands out there, really. You hear it and you think of things that are very fresh and very natural and very open. Can you tell us a little bit about that tagline?
Well, a brand is really just a reflection of a product, in this case, a destination. And years ago, I think it was 15, 16 years ago, we worked with the Michigan Travel Commission and dozens of people who knew Michigan. Eventually, we brought in McCann Erickson, our advertising agency of record, and we discussed, what Michigan is. And basically, we kind of figured it out. And it's always so easy when you're done. You say, well, of course, it's a place with natural, abundant beauty and, friendly people and unique places and experiences to offer. And of course, the trick is, how do you represent that in your marketing tools, advertising and such? So Pure Michigan was born because of the very, talented group over at McCann and some of our staff to put it together. A good marketing campaign, a good brand is simply something that tells the truth about a place from our perspective. So I'm hoping when you see an ad or you hear about Pure Michigan, you say, yeah, that really is what it's like.
So when people think of Michigan, they probably have some misconceptions. I know you just said you were in Flint, and that can probably bring up some questions to people. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions that people have about your state?
Yeah, well, actually, if you were to ask somebody, far, far away from the Midwest, maybe international audience somewhere, about what do they know about Michigan, they're likely going to say Detroit. And it used to be they might say bad things about Detroit, but people are starting to understand that Detroit's really turned it around in the last 15 years. And it's just a great place to live, work, and play. It's vibrant. Really incredible to see what's happening there. And of course, COVID has hit Detroit as it's hit Michigan, as it's hit the entire world. But we'll come back because Detroit has this fighting, gritty spirit. And that's why they are where they are today. Flint's kind of the same way. So that used to be the story, that people would kind of think negatively about Michigan because the only thing they had ever heard were bad news stories coming out of our biggest city, a city that had gone through decades of challenge and transition because of a change in the world economy. And we just weren't prepared. Well, we got prepared. And the people of Detroit said, we're tired of this. We want to turn this thing around. And they did. At the same time, the rest of the state probably was a little bit ahead of Detroit and kind of, getting ready for that next who we are. At the same time, that most of the state has always been, filled with natural experiences, 4 seasons of fun. So it kind of all came together. And today, I think partially because of the Pure Michigan campaign and partially because people have been traveling here, experiencing what we have in reality, and that word of mouth gets out, and because of travel writers and such coming in here and telling the real story of Michigan, people now see Michigan in a different way. They see Michigan in what I think is a truthful, really emotionally connected way. It really is a pretty unique place with incredible destinations and so much diversity of people and places. I think it's a lot to do with the 4 seasons, but it also has a lot to do with the people who live here, We've all been through so much this last year, but Michigan's kind of used to going through a lot. And we learned, I think, before most people in this country and maybe most people in the world, how to get through adversity and get on the other side and be better off for it.
So Michigan is a really unique state in the fact that it's kind of two pieces. You have your, what is it, the mitten, yeah, and then the Upper Peninsula, and that makes it, I don't know, almost like 2 for 1, right?
Yeah. It's true. Well, I always kind of jokingly say, north of the knuckles, meaning, if you look at the back of your hand, the left of your hand, if somebody's looking at that, north of the knuckles is almost all small towns, beautiful natural experiences to offer. We have 11,000 lakes, and many of them, most of them are north of that line. And then the Upper Peninsula is this, man, it's just a nature lover's paradise. And then kind of the lower part, still a lot of rural, a lot of small towns, beach towns, things like that. But most of our bigger cities are in that area, like the beautiful city of Detroit, that's gone through this great transition. But I think partially because we're two peninsulas, we do have a couple of different personalities at the same time as well. The Yoopers really pride themselves on, independence, and every so often there's talk about breaking away from the rest of the state, so that's always kind of fun. And they're really into, really celebrating the kind of the rustic nature of nature, where the Lower Peninsula, a lot of people like to go to the UP to experience, the out of doors temporarily, and then kind of go back to their city environments later.
Now, with that, you have kind of an interesting dichotomy. It's 2 peninsulas, 1 Michigan, and this unity. Can you say that for me a little bit?
Well, during COVID, it's unfortunate that we were also going through a political, transition, and the presidential elections and everything, and we all know about all that, just incredible negativity that was out there, and in the divisions that were set up and continue to be where they are today. So we felt that we could use the brand to communicate and remind at least people here in Michigan that, yeah, we might be a people of 2 peninsulas, but we are one pure Michigan, that we are stronger when we work together and when we think like this, that you bet we're different. We're all different. There's the right side, the left side of the state, the north, the south. And there are, we tend to live in groups. So there are liberal areas, there are conservative areas, but in reality, we are one state. We are one group of people trying to make life better for the rest of us. So we used Pure Michigan, the brand, in that way. And in the heart of COVID, we had no funding at the time, because just by chance, because of a political disagreement between the administration and the legislature, we had no funding. So we reached out to the agency, we reached out to our staff and said, well, what can we do? We just felt the brand is so appreciated by so many people, is so loved by so many people, that we would put it out there and just remind everybody, beyond every other difficulty we're dealing with and disagreement that we're dealing with, just remember, we are 2 peninsulas, but we are one pure Michigan. And I think it really did help to kind of maybe set back some of that negative mood and get people thinking a little more positively and looking toward the future as well.
That is really, really a great sentiment. Now, Michigan is, I don't know, it's also unique in the fact that there is a lot, your peninsulas. So there's water around both parts of the states, and you have a Great Lakes presence. And that leads to just year-round activities. What are some of the things that people could expect in each season?
Yeah, I always like to say we're a people of the water, because we do touch on 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. And we have 11,000 inland lakes, which is really a big surprise to a lot of people, but we just have a lot of lakes. The glaciers were very good to us when they made their last departure. So we are, just a type of people who like to be on the water, in the water, under the water, but whatever it is, we're so connected. Just like people out west might be connected to the mountains, we're connected to the Great Lakes. And about everything we like to do has a connection of some sort in that way. Fishing here is huge. Boating. We have the we have more boating licenses in Michigan than the other state in the country, as an example. So people love to experience our waters and our lakes. You're never more than 5 miles away from a major lake or stream. We have some of the best fly fishing that there is in the country. It just kind of goes on and on and on. And because of the seasonality changes, because we're so far up north, beyond the border of Ontario, we have very distinctive different seasons. So somebody like me whose favorite season is winter, a little strange even here to have that sentiment. I have learned long ago how to really love winter with everything from, skiing uphill, cross country, downhill, snowmobiling, ice climbing, dog sledding, snowshoeing, ice fishing, whatever. There are so many things you can do in the wintertime, as an example. But the thing is, you have to get out there and do it. So
that is the hard part.
One thing about Michiganders, because our winters can be cold and long, that most people realize, if you're going to enjoy that 4th of the year, you have to get out there. And of course, all the other seasons are extremely popular, spring, summer, and fall. And people just love to do all those things that are natural when it comes to the out of doors experiences. And then we have these great cultural institutions like, the Gilmore Car Museum there you're just showing. It's just a tremendous place, the biggest automobile museum in the country, in the hemisphere, really.
Which makes complete sense.
It does, being, the home of American automobiles, with Detroit. And we actually have the automotive national automotive heritage area here as well. And it's a lot bigger than just Detroit. It goes like from Detroit to Flint to Lansing to Kalamazoo because of the auto heritage there. So it's this interesting connection between indoor and outdoor experiences, culture, nature, great city experiences, great urban and rural experiences. It's just a great place.
And I think that Michigan has a really terrific support local vibe. You talked a little bit about all the small towns, and really for small towns to thrive, they have to have the support of the community. And that, I think, is where you get that great, buy local, support local feel. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of local support that people might find if they're visiting a small town? What might they run into?
Yeah, well, I think it's partially because of the challenges that we've had in this state with the economy changing for many years, and us losing so many jobs because of automotive, going around the world, and us not having been prepared back then. That we realized early on we needed to support ourselves. We're a state of 10 million people, so we're one of the bigger states. And I think that maybe we would have had a little bit of a jump on that kind of support local sentiment. During COVID, it's been a different type of need to support local because of the needs for, shutting down businesses and other challenges that they have all been going through. So we actually, during this time, we put together a, hashtag support local MI. And it's been tremendous to see everybody, supporting their restaurants with, in a variety of ways, and their retailers and everybody else. I mean, we've lost so much during COVID, thousands of businesses. I mean, we've lost 2,000 to 3,000 restaurants alone. I'm hoping that most of them will come back, but you just don't know. So it's so important for us to support each other. And as much as I believe in traveling all around the world and getting those experiences and supporting, Americans and interacting with people all around the world, because it's so good in every way. Right now, we need to think about home and think about supporting our local businesses who employ our neighbors and our kids and ourselves. So it's going pretty well.
So as we think about traveling in the Midwest and the adventures that await us in Michigan, what do you think people would find as a surprise coming into your state from another Midwest state?
Well, it's funny. I remember years ago, we had a Great Lakes USA meeting. That's a consortium of all the Great Lakes states for international marketing. All the travel directors and their teams work together on that. And we had a meeting in the kind of the southwest sector of the Lower Peninsula. pretty close to Indiana border, actually right on the Indiana border, close to Chicago, New Buffalo area, just a beautiful area. And we had all these other people coming into the state, and they got to the meeting and they were coming to the parking lots. And one of them said, "We have nothing like this back in our state." Well, of course they do. But I think it's always a surprise to see these really beautiful places, just the awesome, the kind of that connection between nature and the way the people of the local towns kind of slowly built up their communities. It's cute. It's comforting. It's beautiful. So you'll find that everywhere. And then everything that you might be interested in, except for salt water and sharks, you're going to find here. And I think, again, because of the four seasons, that's possible. I mean, I went ice climbing yesterday near Flint. Now think about that. Climbing a frozen waterfall, in effect, but this was an artificial one. In the Upper Peninsula, you can do in this area, that's Grand Island, near Munising in Lake Superior, well, you can ski out there and ice climb these huge frozen waterfalls that come off of those sandstone cliffs. It's awesome. So I think the beauty is often a surprise to them. And the one thing I hear from everybody, seems a little weird to say it, everybody says, "Boy, those Michiganders are so nice." I'm always really proud to hear that. I feel the same way about everywhere else I go, but it's always great to hear.
That is wonderful. So when you are thinking about a Michigan trip, what kind of things do you find that people are looking for most when they are maybe doing their research? Do you have a certain thing that really stands out when people are planning a trip?
Yeah, in the past, it was always they were either looking for experiences to go to like small towns, enjoy beach experience and all that, or they were looking for the real, the cool city experiences, the Henry Ford Museum, Detroit, Grand Rapids, our bigger cities, Lansing, capital experiences and such. But COVID's really changed that dramatically, and we can see it through search results. People are looking to go to places like here in the Upper Peninsula, where you can naturally distance. We've been doing it there for eons. So, people can do that so naturally, where you can go hiking in beautiful areas and not see anybody, that day. Or, and you can still do it in a safe environment. You don't feel like you're so far away from, humanity that you're going to get lost. But it's possible here to do the things that I think people are most looking for right now after COVID. And of course, now that we can virtually do everything, at least temporarily virtually work, virtually go to school, whatever, we're finding that people are going to places they haven't been to at that season in a long time. Like, people have been exploring Michigan during this winter like I've never seen. It's great to see.
That is amazing. Now, our moderator, Amy, has said that she loves Mackinac Island. Mackinac Island is someplace that has been on my personal travel bucket list for years and years and years. And it's unique in the fact that for your automotive state, there are no automobiles on this island.
Yeah, it's right between the two peninsulas. If you're going north on the Mackinaw Bridge, the Mighty Mac, you look to the right and you see this cute little island, and you're going to see Grand Hotel, this massive, beautiful Victorian style hotel there. And then, of course, all these other really neat houses, like you can see in the picture here. The downtown area is just a fun little area for shopping and dining and such. What people don't often know is most of the island is a state park. It was actually the second national park in the country until it was gifted to the state by the feds. So it's just an awesome place. It is set back in time. It's the kind of place you need to be there for at least a couple of nights to kind of get the sounds of life out of your mind, to really take in the sounds of the clip-clops of the horses as they're carrying people down the roads, take a bike around the island and into the interior, the forested part. It's just an awesome place, really special.
It sounds absolutely magical. The funny thing is, you mentioned the Mackinac Bridge, and I think a big conception that people might have is that they think the Mackinac Bridge goes to Mackinac Island, and it doesn't. No. You cannot get to the island, only by ferry? Is that
Take
right?
it by ferry, yeah, either from the Lower Peninsula or Upper Peninsula. You can actually fly in, which is like a carnival ride, by the way. It's a lot of fun. And of course, in the wintertime, you can snowmobile there. I don't personally do it, but they do it.
That sounds amazing in a cold and in a very cold way. But
Yeah.
being able to snowmobile over a Great Lake, it seems like one of those I'll only do it once, but I kind of got to do it experiences.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever going to do it, make sure to go out with a local outfitter so it's safe. But the lakes, Lake Superior by a place like Munising, where you can see in this area, I mean the ice gets a foot deep, so you can drive a car on it, and they often do.
That is just amazing. We do have Fran Folsom checking in from. Fran is out in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And she said Detroit's making a comeback. She and Amy were discussing the museums in Detroit, and there are quite a few really great museums in the city.
Yeah, people usually think of the Henry Ford and Greenfield Village and all their other amazing places that are part of the Henry Ford. It is our number one attraction in the state, and it's an awesome place. It's all about American innovation. It's not a car museum. They have a big section on cars, but it's a museum that really demonstrates the innovation of America and Americans, this great gathering space for people from all over the world who are innovators, and they were before and they are today and they will be in the future. So it celebrates that. But you can imagine, the Arab American Museum. They have the Art Museum. The Detroit Institute of Arts is one of the best in the country. It just kind of goes on and on. It truly is great.
That's just fabulous. So, Dave, I want to thank you again. Amy says the Motown Museum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how could I not mention that? Motown, Hitsville, USA, where Motown music was born. Thank you, Barry Gordy.
So, for people who want to know more about Michigan and maybe start planning their own adventure, I'm assuming they can order a paper travel guide, a nice shiny booklet.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to michigan.org, bottom of the page, you'll see a place to order the guide. And actually, like so many other destinations, we're reusing last year's guide because we weren't able to distribute it because of COVID. Still all, great content. It's not dated. There might be a few pages here and there, but it'll be a great guide for you to pick up. There's a digital version on the website as well. And of course, that major website, as Tim Allen always says, your trip begins at michigan.org.
That is excellent. Dave, thank you again so much for taking the time today to join me. And for everyone watching, visit michigan.org and you can start planning your trip right there on the website. The images and videos will inspire you and make you want to go right now.
Great to be with you.
Thanks so much.